13. Okay, good morning. Questions, please.
Good morning. Mike, you look back these last couple of weeks, you had Cedric Wilson had a big offensive game this past week, and then Dalton Schultz before that. With defenses focusing on your top three receivers and Elliott, are you really positioned to have like a fourth receiver or a tight end or a Tony Pollard to pop up and have big games from week to week?
Definitely, it's something that I personally prefer. I think it really goes back to the philosophy of ball distribution. It's a focus of ours on offense. Just how many number of rushing attempts, how many completions, targets you're trying to hit each and every week, and also over the long scope of the season. It's a long year, so you definitely want to get everybody involved. You clearly understand there's matchups each week. There's always a focus from the defense on to maybe one particular receiver or maybe two. So the ability to have everybody involved is something we talk a lot about in the game plan phase, because you want the quarterback to come back and run the offense, be scheme specific for the majority of the time as far as going through his progression. You set up players by where you put them in the concept. It works. It's more efficient that way. But because when you get into the mode of having to try to throw the ball to a certain player so many times, a certain number of times, I think it puts a lot more stress on the quarterback. You want your quarterback to go back and read the defense, play with anticipation, awareness, and go through his progression. So that's just the way I've always done it in the passing game, and I think Kellen's doing a great job with it.
Has Dak been good at that too, as far as not focusing on one guy? If you're where you're supposed to be in the progression, you get it. If not, I go to the next read.
Yes, I would say he's done a very good job so far, and that's and it's even a step further based off of what goes on during the course of the game. You have your base reads. Every pass play falls under a read category. We have with four families of read, four read families, and then with that, it gives you the ability to make your adjustments and tweaks, in game. But it keeps the keeps the quarterback in his muscle memory and into his time clock that that he's working on and repping each and every day at practice.
Mike, can you give us an update on Tyron Smith and his potential availability for Sunday?
Yeah, Tyron, he participated in practice in the early parts of practice yesterday, and he's slated to practice today. So, he's right on course, but he's obviously like any player coming off an injury. Like I said, I like the work that he accomplished yesterday at practice, and he did some work also with the trainers, conditioning and so forth. But he's slated to go today, and we'll see what that brings us.
He'll mix in on 11 work. Is that different than what he did yesterday? Is that the difference?
I'm sorry, Todd. Could you give me the beginning?
Yeah, he'll do some 11 work.
Oh, that's the plan. Yes, that's the goal. The focus yesterday was the individual periods, and then today he's slated to. Today's our padded day, and this is all by design. So wanted to get him into the padded work and get into the team periods.
DeMarcus Lawrence in the same position today?
DeMarcus is going to focus more in the rehab group today. He'll take very little, if any, today. But I don't think he's in jeopardy. I anticipate him to kind of go through the week like he did last week. So we'll see what today brings.
So this is more managing his situation than a setback or anything like that?
I would agree with that, yes.
Mike, from a procedural standpoint, so Tyron was listed as not practicing yesterday. He was doing some individual work when we were out there. What's the threshold for limited versus do not practice for guys like that who are managing week-to-week issues?
That's a great question. I'm going to have some ignorance here. I'm not exactly what puts them in a limited or where the threshold is for that, but I just noted, based on the plan with the trainers and the coaches, the plan yesterday was for him to go through the individual segment of the practice, and we accomplished that. So I don't know what puts you in the limited category or not. Maybe you have to be in part of the team periods. Rich, do you know the answer to that? Or?
I do not.
Okay, so there you go. We'll have to look that up, and Rich will get that to you in practice today. They stumped us, man. I was doing so good. I was having a good day today too. I had all the answers to every question to him right now. What's that?
With Tyron to go for this week, do you have a decision to make at right tackle between Knight and Steele? Has Brandon Knight played well enough that he'd still be among your top 5?
That's an excellent question, and really it'll take the week to figure that out. And but I think both those guys have hit the mark. As far as getting it done with their opportunities. But I think we all have to be realistic and practical. I mean, we got Tyron coming back off of his situation, so got to see how he practices. So with that, last week we worked two combinations mainly. This week we'll probably work 3.
Mike, when you look at your first 3 games of the season, you've kind of had a rack starts, some good and some bad. Do you see any common thread between those 3 starts?
Common thread in the starts. Well, I think this. When I first looked at the statistics, obviously we have more series opportunities in the second half for the offense than the defense. But also we deferred. We've been in a deferred pattern. I think all 3 games too. So, but no, it's. The LA game, they got the long drive there at the beginning, and that's, that kind of takes a little steam, because everybody wants to start fast and things like that. But just really, I'm going through the games in my mind here. We don't have I don't have anything that I've presented to the team saying this is exactly what we need to do better, the fast start, because it's not just one thing. So we just focused on. Lining up. I mean, we worried about tempo like everybody does. We played 3 good offenses that have the ability to play with tempo. 3 experienced quarterbacks. But I clearly felt that our defense each week improved in the area of pre-snaps. And this past week against Seattle was clearly our best of the 3. So. With that, the timing of the turnovers, I think, is part of it. We had the one there right at the end of the half and one right at the beginning of the second half. So, you look at those things, but it's just a combination of just playing better football, executing. But I wouldn't say it's just one thing.
Mike, what stands out about playing against Kevin Stefanski when you were in Green Bay and he was at Minnesota? What were your impressions of him then?
Well, I mean, he number one, he was there a long time, so he was there through Brad Childress, and Brad was more of a West Coast offense, and all the way through Gary Kubiak, which was another version of the West Coast offense, with clearly a different run game and the emphasis on boots and keeps and so forth. So the fact that he was calling it and Gary was installing it was I thought was a unique setup there. At the end of my time in Green Bay, but obviously it worked very well for them. So you can really see the blending of offensive scheme in Cleveland. From my viewpoint, I think you see a Bill Callahan run game. Heavy scheme, the wide outside zone starting point, the pattern and gap schemes involved. So obviously, clearly an emphasis with running the football with the 2 dynamic backs, and then you can see some common threads as far as the pass concepts that they're using based on Kevin's time in Minnesota. So I think it's like all of us. You get in the room, with the new staff, you have experience throughout your coaching staff. You listen to ideas. Just for example, I can see Baker Mayfield's footwork from last year to this year is different. It's very similar to what I always taught in Green Bay. So you're seeing that influence there. So I mean, you pay attention to those things, but at the end of the day, it's about their scheme and how they're utilizing their players.
Mike Dak leads the NFL
in virtually every passing category. How much of that is the way you want to play the game, and how much of it is the fact that you've had to play from behind double digits twice this year?
I think it's a combination of both, because we obviously have great confidence in Dak, and the fact of the matter, you do want to play a little more run play action on first and second down, but when we've got behind in the second half, particularly just take the last game. I mean, for Seattle to get a touchdown, going in and then coming out after the 2 turnovers, it put us in a little different mindset, and frankly, I thought he did a heck of a job playing. He had to play uphill there for a while, and got us the lead there, and then we got it down to a 2-minute drill. So we do want to be aggressive offensively. I mean, that's part of the makeup of how we want to play, because I think it clearly suits the type of players we have on offense. But that's why it's important to really view every game as what it is. It's its own entity, and that's why you play the game. I mean, we practice and we prepare, and we have a general idea how we think and how we would like the game to go. But that's the beauty of the game of football. Things happen, mistakes are made, and you have to adjust and you have to overcome. And you have those adverse moments, you have sudden change moments, and the most important thing is to respond to those situations. And as a team, I think we've done a good job of that so far. But obviously, you need to do a little bit of a better job of that to make sure we're getting a win at the end of the day.
You're about to start 3 straight home games here. Do you view the season in stretches at all that way, and look at it at different kind of chunks as we go forward?
Yeah, definitely. I know that traditionally you break it up into quarters. First, second, third, and there's value in that, because if you look at the trends over time, there's things you can take away from the past and apply it to the currently where you are as a football team and what quarter of the season you're in, and just really make sure you're emphasizing the right things. And it's a different way of emphasizing, frankly, the same things is really what it comes down to. So, but this is definitely a stretch we need to take advantage of. I think anytime, very rarely do you ever get 3 home games in a row. So it's definitely a stretch we want to take full advantage of. But frankly, as we've been talking about all week, it's we have an uncommon opponent in the Browns, and we got to make sure we do a heck of a job preparing and clearly understand these guys the best we can. So we take advantage of being at home on Sunday.
Mike, when Randy Gregory was reinstated, the league had said he could rejoin team practice October 5th. Is he still on schedule to join you on practice next week? Where is he physically?
I'll tell you, he looks good. I did a chance just to visit with the trainers on him yesterday, so he's making progress. We haven't made that determination if he will practice October 5th, but based on where he is today and just going off what they've told me about him in the past, everybody feels good about his conditioning.
You've called Michael Gallup the #1 receiver. Among his traits, where would you put his ability to go get it, to go up and get the ball?
Oh, I think that's one of his best thing he does. I mean, you talk about a guy to go up and get the football in a phone booth type environment too. He also plays very well that way. But yeah, just the vertical catches that he's made so far I've been extremely impressed with. I think it's clearly one of the best things he does.
A lot of coaching staffs have a little bit different standards how they judge it. What do you consider an explosive play as far as a pass and also a run?
I stay with the standards. I used to do 15 and 10, and then, to be honest with you, I got tired of looking at other statistics that that were different than mine. So, I adhere to the league stats.
Mike, along those lines, Dak threw the ball 57 times on Sunday. I know that's a lot. Is there a number of pass attempts that is desirable to you to win a game?
Well, 57 is too many. I think anytime you see yourself over 50, it usually reflects the type of game you're in. But if you could draw it up, you definitely want to be north of 30 rushing the ball, and you like to be, right around 40 throwing it. So it's the goal is to be 72 plus plays a game, and I'd like to be a 30-40 type ratio between the run and the pass if I was going to draw up the perfect game. Okay, thank you.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this?